welcome. Gio and I are here with Philip Freeman. He's got a lot going on. The CEO and founder of Murphy's Naturals, which had something to do with his origin story for the loading dock. And both companies are certified B Corps, which is awesome. So, Philip, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jamie. It's good to be here with you and with Gio.
Yeah.
And I know you had him on. When did you have him on for your webinar?
This was a while ago. I know. Do you remember? It was, I don't know, it might have been 2 years ago. We did a webinar on co-warehousing and I had never met you before. And same thing Gio said, you show up, smile on your face, and just happy to. And I didn't realize you got a lot going on. You're a busy guy. So I so appreciated you telling your story. And it's a fun story, so we have to retell it today. And Gio, how did you and Philip connect?
One of his colleagues was on one of our webinars, and she reached out about there are a couple opportunities they're looking at. So we were able to connect and hopefully get an opportunity to give one of those a good run. We're trying to wait. So it's a waiting game at this point. So it's always fun to connect with people. And he started sharing his story. And I'm like, whoa, I don't want to know. Typically, Phil, I know way more about you today than I know about most guests, because a lot of times I'm like, let's not even talk about it right now. Let's talk about it on a webinar or a podcast. It's so much better that way. So I'm more prepared today than I normally am.
Yeah.
But we didn't really get into... We got into the short history, but we didn't get into the long-term history, what your business background was before Murphy's, and then we'll jump into Murphy's and then loading dock. But
tell us your whole life. Dive right in.
Okay, I'll tell you my boring life story. I'm glad to. Hopefully people won't start signing off. Yeah, so really I was fortunate. I grew up on a farm up in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. I was the youngest of 5. This is a great place to grow up. Apple orchards rising up.
That's because your 4 older siblings were doing all the work.
Yeah, that's right. I was definitely the spoiled one. We had very little when they first came around, and we had a little bit more when I came around. But yeah, trying to fit into the hand-me-down clothes of 3 older brothers doesn't always work well, especially since they wear them down. But that's all right. Patches work. But yeah, no, so I grew up on a farm. It was just a wonderful place to be. Life was spent outdoors all the time. It's one of those things where mom would send you out the door and in the morning, and you'd be back sometime for dinner, just because we were out exploring and enjoying life. So
there was no iPhone in your hand.
Yeah, no. The neighbors had a rotary dial phone, which is one of the most damn frustrating things in the world when I think back to it.
So I grew up on a farm in upstate New York. I don't know if we talked about this. We had a party line. I'm totally dating myself at this point. And the farm was on it. And so if I was talking to a friend, or God forbid, a boy friend, my dad would pick up and the cows would be in full force in the background. It was mortifying.
Yes, there was a party line that was shared with people we don't know. So somebody would get on that line.
How do you not know everybody in, I don't know, the boondocks of, no, okay.
We knew most people around, but I don't know where these people were. Yeah, hard to know how technology was connecting us back in the day, but the neighbor might be 2 miles away. Yeah, we weren't right next to each other, that's for sure. But yeah, it was a great way to grow up. Spent life outdoors all the time. Then I went off to school. I went to Virginia Tech. And I had decided early on that I wanted to be a naval officer. When I was in 8th grade, I decided I wanted to be a naval officer. And so that was my path that I was heading for. There was a reason for that. My oldest brother, Mike, who's 11 years older, went to the Naval Academy when I was in 1st grade. And he was the inspiration for that. But I went to Virginia Tech, did Navy ROTC. I became a naval officer. I was a deep sea diver in the Navy, did a lot of interesting things while I was in the Navy. Served for a total of 8 years, active duty and reserve. But when I left active duty, I went to work for a packaging company that was soon acquired by a much larger international packaging company. And I was there for 23 years in sales, dealing with manufacturers and dealing with retailers. So I got tons of experience and essentially was a consultant to different companies, would help them with their packaging needs, would help them with design needs, would also help them with their manufacturing processes to figure out more efficient ways to run their operations, both through equipment systems and also the packaging they would use. So all that good, fun, boring stuff I did for 23 years and I actually loved it. It wasn't boring because I got to be on the inside of so many different businesses. And because our parent company was an international company, I started taking on international accounts and was able to travel all over the place. And I started working primarily with larger retail companies. And the Body Shop was one of those, if you're familiar with the retailer, the Body Shop. And I got a lot of inspiration from the founder of the Body Shop and how she ran businesses. She was basically what a B Corp was before there were B Corps. She was a real pioneer. And so we can circle back to that, but how I started my companies had a lot to do with what I saw and gained inspiration from how she ran her company based off of vision and mission. So there's that. And then after 23 years, I decided it was time to pursue a venture because I had been writing down business ideas and product ideas for years and years and years and filing them away and never doing anything with it. I think part of it's because the company I work for really let me scratch that entrepreneurial itch and do creative work. However, I really wanted to do something on my own. And yeah, so I started out a little venture that was a side hustle out of our garage in North Raleigh, and that bloomed. And if you want, I can pause here and you can ask me questions.
Well, no, you've already started it. So what is that venture and why'd you create it, right? I think that's the coolest part of the story. No offense.
Wait, but then the other fun part of the story is I can still picture you talking about like how the loading dock came to be. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So what I'm about to tell you about, the first business that was created and brand had to do with solving a problem at home. And then the second company that I'll share, that actually came from solving a problem that I had, but wanted to solve it for others when I was starting a business. The first business, when I was trying to think of what to do, I didn't end up doing any of the things that I had thought of before that were in those files. But at home, my wife, Pam, she's a mosquito magnet. Mosquitoes absolutely love her. And I like to spend all my time outdoors. She just wasn't interested in coming outdoors because they loved her so much. Literally, I tell this all the time. She can walk to the mailbox and back and she'll have a mosquito bite. And who wants to put a repellent on when you're going to the mailbox? And she just basically said, I don't want to use deep chemical-based products. Find something that's good, that's natural, that works, and I'll join you. And so I started looking for natural products that were really effective repellents, and I struggled to find anything. I searched, and ultimately I did research, worked on formulations that worked for Pam, and then thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what I need to create something around. So I did. So I created effective natural mosquito repellent products for around you and for on you. Started it in our garage and named it after our dog Murphy. And that was the first company and brand, which was pretty cool to start right there in Raleigh.
And was this all did you know how to do this process from the work that you'd done for all those years, or?
Some of that came into play, but more of my experience came into play later.
Okay.
When we became a manufacturer and started making.
Yeah, you've never formulated something, or I guess, and also packaging from scratch, branding. Yeah.
I had worked with a lot of people in those with other brands, learned a lot along the way. And I was able to get help here and there, but the formulation part, most of our formulations we've come up with ourselves. Some we've had help with for sure. But those original formulations that worked pretty straightforward, and it was all based off of research that I had done, looking for EPA compliant products that were natural based. Learned a lot through the research, learned what worked, what didn't work. And then the big part of was discovering why some natural products don't work. And so uncovered a lot of that. And part of the reason many don't work is natural essential oils are incredibly expensive, and the EPA is very strict on the ingredients you can put into a product. They have a list of active and inert ingredients, and you have to comply to that list very strictly. You can't deviate from it. You can't go outside of those lists. But what they don't do is they don't regulate how much of those expensive active ingredients you put in your product. Because they're so expensive, a lot of the big brands that play at naturals, they'll put trace amounts of those expensive oils in. And when you put trace amounts in, they don't work as well. So you have to really load them up. And we use a combination of different oils, and we've tested so many of them. And you use those in a high concentration, which makes your product more expensive, but it makes it effective. And that was really the key. And it was what people weren't doing that I discovered was what we needed to do. So we positioned ourselves as a more expensive product in the market, and we were effective, and it worked. And we found out there are a lot of people that were looking for effective natural products, and we're willing to pay a premium for those to get away from the synthetics and the chemicals.
Okay, so you're 23.
Before we get into the loading dock, I know where you're heading.
No, I wasn't. I was going to ask a personal question. Let me do my
go for it.
Okay.
Go first.
You're 23 years, great career, living the dream, and then you turn to Pam and say, let's try this. I'm going to mess around with this. And then, okay, I'm done with the corporate thing. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And she says, is she on board?
She was incredibly supportive because she knew how passionate I was, but there was certainly reservations. She knew because I did a good job in my old job. And so I was being recruited by some other companies when I got out of it in the same field. So she felt pretty confident that if this all
there was a plan B.
Yeah, that I could go work for one of those packaging companies. Okay. So she felt pretty good that I'd be able to do something else like that. I think that gave a little bit of comfort, and she knew this was something I wanted to do, and I just had it done. So it was super satisfying to start something, and it was great naming our company Murphy's Naturals after our dog Murphy. And Murphy's has evolved over time. At first, other people made our products for us because it's hard to do that out of your garage. But what started happening is the business started catching on. And keep in mind, it started as side hustle. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week with my regular job. So time that I put into getting Murphy's going was all in addition to that. So nights and weekends. And finally, I got to a point where we were starting to have boxes for UPS to pick up piled so high at the end of our driveway that we started needing to ship stuff on pallets and receive stuff on pallets. And our neighbors would just see these boxes piling up every day. And great neighbors, fortunately. We still live in the same house. We've been there 30 some years. So same.
Talk about the 18-wheeler.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting to. Where you can test your great neighbor. So there was one day where a tractor trailer came onto our cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sacs are not ideal for tractor trailers. They accidentally went to the billing address, which was my home, instead of the ship to address, which was a friend's warehouse where he had a loading dock. And so it took hours to get that truck unstuck and out of our cul-de-sac. It was such a mess. And that was the tipping point. And I was like, I have got to go find a place where I can move this business, and I have to have a loading dock to receive and ship pallets. And so I went and I found it, and I found a 2,000 square foot space, really small, 1,000 office, 1,000 of warehouse. But this was just an early on venture. And at that point in time, I thought there was a lot of potential, but I didn't really know how well it would do. And so I signed this lease. It was a 3-year lease for the space, which was pretty flexible, but the economy at the time wasn't great. So I was able to do that, but I had to personally guarantee the lease. And when you personally guarantee a lease, if your business doesn't thrive, you still have to pay for it. And all your personal assets are up for grabs if you don't fulfill it. And I was confident enough, but it's still, that kind of stinks. But the good thing and the bad thing was we outgrew the space within 3 to 6 months. and we were stuck in a 3-year lease. So we had to cobble it together. I had a friend whose warehouse, I was able to store things, storage units, but you can imagine how inefficient it was taking things in between. Finally, I started looking for a space, and I found this great old warehouse that was pretty abandoned, but it was a really cool building. And I thought to myself, when I was looking at the square footage, I thought, man, this is at a really good price point. I know this area is going to get more expensive as it develops. I thought, how do I go ahead and get more square footage in this building? And I thought, I think what I could do is I could create something that I needed when I was in my garage. If I could create a flexible space where people could operate their businesses out of, but also have a front of office opportunity, I thought that would work. So the idea was to launch a co-working space with offices, conference rooms, co-working space, but also a co-warehouse space alongside it, and basically divide it up in a similar way as you would office suites. With office suites and co-working, you might have a 1-person, 2-person, 10-person, whatever size. I did that. I took a bunch of warehouse space and cut it up with chain link fence and created individual work cells and called it the loading dock, because it was the loading dock that I needed so badly when I was moving out of my garage in North Raleigh. And so that was the inspiration for the name, because that was so functional. And it turns out people all the time, whether they have businesses in their basement, their garage, a storage unit, loading docks are something that are really important, especially as you're scaling. I did a lot of research, and I was trying to find other co-warehouse spaces to get inspiration from.
What year was this?
This was 2015. We opened in 2016. And I could not find anyone that was doing co-warehousing, and it might have predated that a little bit. And I searched all over, just couldn't find the model. I was like, okay, I can figure this out. And so figured it out and made sure that I had all the essentials that I needed when I started, like pallet jacks and hand trucks and working, kitting, assembly, pack out tables. And it turned out there were a ton of people who needed that, where they needed the front of office, but they also needed a way to, a place to operate their e-commerce business. And that's not something you can do easily in a normal co-working space, because it's just not made for that.
In fact, it'll annoy people anytime you start bringing your stuff in.
That's right. And then taping boxes, and it's loud and all of those things. So we created a space, and it really was giving everyone what I needed when I was starting out. And I just thought, I know that there's people that need this. And I'm pretty passionate about entrepreneurialism. And what I told Gio before was, if we can lower the hurdles to entrepreneurialism, and we can take out and take away that need for a long-term lease that you personally guarantee, and we can give you flexible warehouse space that you can expand from, or you can work outside of, because we have common work areas, and we can give you the equipment you need to move around, stuff like pallet jacks and hand trucks and carts and that sort of thing. Thought it would be really meaningful. And the main thing is that maybe a few people, we lower the hurdles enough that people who weren't quite willing to take the risk would go ahead and take the risk and try. And that's proven to be true. So it protects the downside. If your business doesn't thrive, you're not obligated to a lot. You can get out about as easy as a gym membership. But if you do thrive, you have this community of people doing the same thing that can help you out, and you can commiserate with, or you can get advice from. And that was a really incredible thing that happened, and so much built out. And we've had some incredible brands that have been here and grown up and graduated and moved on, and the steady flow of them. And it just worked. It's what people needed. And since then, there have been a lot of other co-warehousing organizations that have come, and some of the big ones came to visit us before they started, because they were like, how does this work? And we're glad to share and show. And some of them have done an incredible job scaling their co-warehouse businesses since. So we're proud to see it, and we're proud that we gave some inspiration for that.
I know, Gio, I forgot. We give him credit for inventing co-warehousing.
I don't claim it. I figure somebody had been doing it, but I don't know who was.
You can find it. I know. That was pretty early. That was earlier in the modern co-working era as well.
We give Murphy all the credit.
Yeah, we'll give Murphy the credit. That's right.
Totally.
That sounds good. And I also told Gio, it was just a weird thing because I had this startup, which was Murphy's Naturals, and I was starting the startup. I was starting a startup for startups. So it's crazy,
right?
But it all worked. And yeah, I'll tell you, one of the great benefits of it is we surrounded Murphy's with all these other exciting businesses and all these things going on, and the synergies that came from working together and helping each other out. I could say, hey, I know a bunch of packaging companies that can help you out with your graphics and your corrugated cartons. And I could help somebody else with higher end packaging, or, hey, I recommend using this sort of thing. But then leads started to happen. And then we started getting, and people started to come work for Murphy's from the co-working space. We never poached anyone, but people would naturally come to us. You might have been a remote worker for another company and said, tell me more about Murphy's. And we've got some long-standing employees that have come from our member base, and I'm super thankful for it.
If you turn around and look at your bookshelf, what is your favorite book up there and why? Or do you have a book that is your favorite that's not up there?
Yeah, good question. What's up there? I just read this one, Who Not How, and I thought that was really helpful. That's Dan Sullivan, I believe. Yeah,
I read that one. I like that a lot. It's a good.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I do have one of my favorites up here. We have things about traction. Did you hear that? Some books just fell. This is one that would probably be boring to a lot of people. It's an old book. It's called The Goal, and all has to do with manufacturing processing, and how to figure out bottlenecks and smooth those out.
Wait, what's the guy's name? My husband and I took
is the last name. I'm not going to try.
No, I was trying to think of the bottleneck case study in that book. My husband and I took an operations class together in business school, and for whatever reason, that book sticks in my brain, like the idea of the bottleneck. I can't remember
They had a story about Boy Scout group marching on a trail, and
there was some kid who was the bottleneck, and I'm trying to remember his name. Anyway,
he was carrying too much in his pack, so they had to spread it out. Yeah, well,
stories are memorable because I remember that one.
But my favorite book is this one. And this is one I read back when I was in packaging, and it's Body and Soul by Anita Roddick. Anita passed away a long time ago, but she was the founder of The Body Shop. And I actually read this book before The Body Shop was my customer. And when I read the book, I was so inspired by her philosophies. I made The Body Shop my customer. And again, I worked with them for over 2 decades globally. But she was, again, she basically had a B Corp type company before they were a B Corp. She was a pioneer in community fair trade, working with indigenous people in different parts of the world, finding something naturally occurring in their environment. And she would purchase it from them at a fair price and use it as an ingredient in her products. And that could be anywhere from Nepal to Bangladesh to Brazil. And she was super inspiring. And what I found from her is no matter where I went in the world, everyone who worked for her was so passionate about the mission and vision of the company. And I said, one day when I start something, I want to have the same thing. I want to have a team that just cares so much about what we're about. They're just that passionate. No matter who you talk to, they get it. They get our vision, they get our mission, they get our values. And we've done that with both companies. I'm real proud that both Murphy's Naturals and the loading dock have that kind of a culture. It's real gratifying.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now I've got to read that book.
I know, totally.
Yeah, it's wild. She was wild. I tell you what, she had no fear whatsoever. She started in her kitchen formulating products and selling them probably out on the street and at little fairs and things like that in Littlehampton, England.
That's crazy. So you were talking about employees and everything else. At this point, what size is Murphy's? How many employees do you have? What size is Loading Dock?
Murphy's has about 45 employees and the loading dock has about 15 employees. Murphy's is, scaling nicely. We are the manufacturer of 80% of our products now. While we outsourced it at first, we've insourced most all of our manufacturing, and we've really grown that significantly. And then the loading dock, we started with this original location, and I wasn't planning on doing more than this one location, but then we ended up doing another one and another one. So we have 3. There was a point where I had in mind to really try and blow this thing up, but it's hard to ride 2 horses. And so it was really important to do the 3 that we have really well, which is what we're focused on. And one of the philosophies is right people, right seat. And that's something that we've done at the loading dock. We've really filled the seats with the right people. And we want to do things extremely. And if the right opportunities come after we really nail this, then we'll look at it. But it really has to be the perfect opportunity. But the majority of my time I spend on the Murphy's Natural side. The leadership team and the leaders I have in place at the loading dock, they just take care of business every day. So I can be more the visionary and the guy who guides.
If your team was having a board meeting and someone asked the top characteristics they like about you, what would they say?
Interesting. Pretty positive overall. I'm a positive guy. So I think that would be one of them. Passionate about what we do, about our mission and vision, incredibly passionate about our team. Culture is one of the top priorities for me. I figure if we get culture right, we can accomplish most anything. So the team's incredibly important, and they know that. They know I care about them, and they care about me back. It's super gratifying.
Yeah, isn't that amazing when you show people respect, you get it back a lot of times. And I think that's something that we miss out in our current society. I've seen you interact with your team, and so it's fun to see when that culture's so evident that you see it from the outside when you look in.
Yeah, we say that we have a rich culture, and rich, if you look at that's respect one another. As the I is inspire good. The best way to inspire good is to do good. And the C is to celebrate nature, get out in nature, enjoy nature, preserve it. And the H is have fun. There is no reason in the world you can't have fun at work. We can work hard and have fun.
All right, Jamie.
I'm just curious, just one business model point. One of the things I remember you saying on the webinar we did was that you actually thought co-warehousing might be, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase it, have a place in even smaller markets than co-working, because there are so many like smaller entrepreneurs who just need those facilities. Yeah, can you, and having grown up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, that sort of stuck in my head. Yeah, can you just talk about that perspective a little bit?
Yeah, so when I was looking at expanding more broadly, really part of it was just the fact that entrepreneurs are everywhere, okay? And I realized that you just don't need a huge population density to be able to have a co-warehouse space and be functional and profitable. Because you think about warehouses, the price per square foot is so much less than it is for office. If you can have a big warehouse facility, but have some amenities, some front of office amenities, maybe that's 5,000 square feet, but then you have another 50,000 that is co-warehouse. That 55,000 in a Class A type environment would be incredibly expensive, and you would have to get a lot of people in there to cash flow it. Yeah. But if you look at the cost of a warehouse, that price per square foot can be incredibly low. And it just fills a need that people have that's not being served, and certainly not being served in smaller communities. So what I realized is you don't need a huge population density to be able to find all those entrepreneurs and give them a place to go, to come, to work out of, to collaborate. People working out of their home, especially on an operational type business, that's hard. It's really hard. And to be able to have other people to work with and be around, That makes all the difference in the world because it's scary. And I talked about lowering the hurdles earlier. Just because we lower them doesn't mean the hurdles aren't there. They still have to be cleared. But if we can make them a little lower and a little easier to clear, then I think people have the opportunity to thrive.
First of all, thank you for your service. I know you said you served 8 years. What values did you come out of the service with that have helped you build what you've built?
Yeah, I guess a few things. I've worked in a different type of community in the Navy as a Navy diver. We worked in very small groups, and just because the nature of our work is pretty dangerous, everybody's a specialist in their area, and you really count on everyone knowing their job and knowing their job. We all have to cross-train and know each other's job because you never know when you're going to have to do the others, but usually someone is just like the resident expert. And because of the hazardous duty that's associated with it, you need to be able to rely on them. And small teams, being able to count on people to do their job, to protect you, to protect themselves is incredibly important. And we've had that approach from the beginning. Everybody doing their job, doing it, respecting one another. So it doesn't matter where you are in the organization. We work on a philosophy of respect and appreciation. We appreciate everyone for who they are, no matter how diverse we are. It doesn't matter. We don't know each other's backgrounds. We come from all kinds of different situations, but you appreciate that everyone has their own story, but the respect comes from day one. And I just was talking to my team recently and telling them that you have my respect from the day you come into this company. You don't have to earn my respect, you have it. And how that respect grows or diminishes really is all up to you. And if you appreciate one another, if you respect one another, then you trust one another and everything works out just fine. So
Jamie's eyebrows are going up. She agrees.
A great question. I like that one.
So very similar in the military. Yeah. You have that, and especially in small units, you have that respect for one another. You have the appreciation and you have trust.
And children, how many kids do you have?
I have 0.
You have 0, and just Murphy.
Murphy was our kid. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was. He passed away shortly after we launched Murphy's, but he was around to see the launch of the brand and the company.
And is there a Murphy replacement? Never replaced, obviously, but is there now?
We've talked about it. We just haven't. No, maybe one day, but it's been a long time. And when we haven't, that was 2013 when he passed. So it's been over 10 years, but
wow.
We just haven't been able to quite get ourselves to do that. He is special.
Yeah, I said I would never. I'd still remember when I put Dago down, and I was like, the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life. And I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do it again. And I just woke up 2 years later and I was just ready. It just happens. And I've had that happen to a few friends. And then I've got friends like you that are like, I can't ever do it again. So
we've talked about it a little bit lately. So it's not out of the question. We actually, our co-working space, co-warehouse space, and Murphy's were dog friendly.
I saw that. I was like, oh yeah, that's clearly a value that resonates. Yeah.
Oh yeah. One of my team members was just up here with her lab for a meeting, and we have people bring their dogs all the time. So I'm fortunate. I get that dog fix on a daily basis with a wide variety of them. So that's nice. So maybe that's one of the reasons I've been able to go this long, but I think Pam would probably appreciate one. So I've been thinking about it more lately.
You're going to just show up with a puppy one day.
Ooh, maybe.
So what do you and Pam do for fun when y'all aren't running one of the businesses?
Yeah. We enjoy visiting family. I'm really fortunate. Of the 5 siblings we have, we all get along great and have a wonderful time together. So
that's amazing.
We'll spend time going to see family. We've spread out a little bit, so we'll get together and have fun, but we like to travel. We have a lot of travel plans, a lot of things that we want to do. We had a great trip to Iceland last year, celebrating our 30th anniversary, which was on June 5th. So tomorrow's my anniversary, 31st.
Nice.
So we did a great cruise around Iceland with lots of port visits. So We like to travel. And to a variety of places. We're not sure where our next stop is going to be. We're evaluating that now.
So I did Iceland a few years back for New Year's. Ooh. And a buddy called and he was like, hey, a bunch of us are doing Iceland for New Year's. You in? And I was like, sure, just send me the details. And it was amazing. It was incredible. The fireworks show was like a fireworks show I've never seen before. It was like an hour and a half long, and we kept waiting. When is it going to be over? We didn't want to go to bed before it, but it just kept going and going. So it was pretty incredible. But Iceland is definitely on my bucket list to go back during the summer.
We're going to go back. So we did the cruise around it. We're going to rent a car and circumnavigate it by car next time. We think that'll be a lot of fun.
So what's your favorite place that y'all have been together?
Oh, wow. That was pretty great, actually.
Yeah.
Iceland was a lot of fun. But we also like the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's 4 hours from here, and we love it. We love it there. It's just a great place to go. So
Are you good at turning off when you're out of the office?
What do you think?
Yeah. I know the 80 to 100 hours plus the side hustle. I'm guessing maybe not that much.
I'm actually getting much more disciplined. When I was working that much, I've just built these incredible teams, and I have team members who get it done. They don't need me. The best thing for a leader to do is make themselves redundant, especially if you're more visionary. You need to spend your time thinking and less time doing. So actually, it takes me about a day and a half to get into vacation mode, just to set it aside. It's hard just to go straight into it. But usually after a day and a half, 2 days, I'm usually set in it. And just out of courtesy to Pam and also just to give myself a break, I'm pretty good about vacation and unplugging.
Okay. So you mentioned traction. Do you guys run on EOS? Is that a framework you use? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So we've done portions of traction over the years, just doing the quarterly rocks and that sort of thing, but we never fully implemented it. And I read the book last year, front to back, and then read it again. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many opportunities and things for us to capitalize on. Our goal is to have full traction implementation by the end of this year. So it's about a 12-month process for us. So we're way down the road. Of course, we had the Vision Traction Organizer, the VTO, and getting all of those different things done. And a big part of it that was fun was creating Murphy's Way, which is our core values. And Murphy's Way was rich, which I was talking to you about: respect, inspire, celebrate, and have fun. And we're actually getting ready to make little laminated cards. I'll go around through the team and operations and throughout. And I was like, all right, let's talk about rich. Do you remember what R stood for? And it's fun having that interaction, but we're making little laminated cards to give everyone in English and Spanish, because we have quite a few people who speak Spanish here, just to make sure everybody has that at hand so they can look at it and see it and be reminded about what's right. And then there's all the behaviors that go along with that, reinforce it. Behaviors are positive, right? And EOS, these are the positive ways we act and the way we do things that are in support of those core values. Yeah, I like it.
So what were the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome as you were building the loading dock? Things that you didn't think about that popped up? Or
it's always way more expensive than you think. Construction costs, furnishing the spaces, the timelines for construction, the additional costs for construction that were hidden or unrealized. That was challenging, and having sufficient funds to do that. And in doing it, and we were really thoughtful. We toured a lot of co-working spaces up and down the East Coast to try and get an idea of best practices. So we had a head start when we got going. Plus, we have Raleigh founded here, which used to be called Raleigh HQ. They were one of the original co-working spaces in our area, and they were incredibly helpful to us. They didn't have a scarcity mentality. They were happy to help us figure the way and gave us a lot of insight for co-working so we could get started on the right foot. So that was helpful. And they've gone on and they're doing co-warehousing now. And yeah, they helped us get going in co-working. And we like to think that we helped inspire them on the co-warehousing side. Yeah. And it's great. It's good. We don't have a scarcity mentality too. The more there is of it, the more people understand it and get it.
Yeah, I think the co-warehousing model is so unique, right? It just continues evolving as more and more people get into it. Obviously, Saltbox has been a big one that's been growing out of Atlanta. And so I toured one of their spaces here recently. But it's just the whole co-working industry is there's more and more diversification, right? Of brands, just like the hotel industry, right? Is what kind of hotel are you looking for? Not just price point, but what kind of experience do you want? And so to me, it's so interesting how we're seeing more and more of that in our industry, right? And I think that's just going to continue. And even to the point where even within co-warehousing, I think there's going to be more diversification, right? I haven't seen anyone start doing like cold storage, but that's a big part that has been done in the past, not in a co-working mentality, but in a co-warehousing type of feeling where one operator basically controls all that. But I think there's going to be some additional diversification within even that sector. So it'll be interesting to see when you pull that off.
Yeah. And the Saltbox guys, they came and visited us shortly after we launched. And I could tell those guys were go-getters. I knew they were going to do something good with it. So I was really excited to see them raise and be able to expand like they have. It's really gratifying to see it. And yeah, sounds like they're doing it really well from last I've heard.
Yeah, they are for sure. All right, Jamie, what do you got?
You ready? Okay. So you're on a trip with Pam and you're letting loose a little bit and you go to a karaoke bar. What's your song?
That's if I did karaoke. Oh my goodness. Gosh. Wow. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to come up with what's on Spotify that I think
okay, we'll take that. What's on Spotify that you might sing along to?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would find a Whiskey Myers song or something like that and try and do that. Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Even better, what's Pam's song?
I don't know.
Man, we got to get y'all to do karaoke nice and next time.
I would hope to find a very empty karaoke bar. We're going to participate in that. But yeah, no, I can't even name a specific song. I'm sorry, Jamie, I failed on this one, but it'd probably be a real simple, easy country song, Texas Nights or something like that.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Totally. That works.
We really appreciate you joining us and thank you for taking time and being so open. I know now you've done the webinar with Jamie and now this, and hopefully people can learn a little bit about what you're doing and really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks very much, both of you, Gio and Jamie. This has been fun. And Jamie, it was a lot of fun when we spoke the first time. So thank you for speaking with me again. This has been nice. And we always love telling our Murphys and loading dock story. So appreciate it.